Okay, we got green light, so can you hear me out there? Okay. Got an echo coming back. All right, you good?
Yep, we're good.
We're going to begin. This is being recorded, so this is, there may come some points where I've been told only one person is on the Zoom, and they're just listening in. They're not participating. So anticipate, you still can't hear me? Maybe I need to eat this mic a little bit. Is that better? There we go. So as I said, we have a few housekeeping measures that we need to take care of first. They're the first three items on the agenda, and then we'll get right into the annexation question. So the first item on the agenda is we need to select a chair for the Boundary Commission. So I'll bring that up to the commission for that selection or nomination.
Mr.
Chris
Chair.
Paulson, yeah.
Yeah. I move that we approve Chris Paulson as the chair of the Utah County Boundary Commission until the first Monday in January 2022.
And we have a motion. Is there a second?
Go ahead.
I second that motion.
So we have a motion and a second. It's open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, before you do that, be aware the statute actually has as a 2-year appointment, so we would modify that date to a 2-year appointment. Yeah, let's do that too.
So that's modified to 2023 then, right?
Yeah, please.
Okay. As amended. Are you okay with the amendment?
Yes, I'm in that, yes, 2023.
So we have a first and a second. It's open for discussion. And if there is no discussion, we'll go ahead and vote on it. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there any nays? Okay, and that passes.
Mr. Chairman, one other thing, Alice is new to this board. Could we say the names of those who made the motion and the second, and then also identify all the other members of this board so Alice knows? She's keeping minutes here.
Okay. Mayor Kirk Pensaker made the motion.
And then-
Andrea Allen, second motion.
Okay. We probably should go through introductions in a minute too, just so everyone in the audience knows who's on the board.
Thank you.
The second item on the agenda is we need to fill a vacancy on the board. And so by statute, this vacancy is filled by the mayor and the two county members of the commission making the nomination and voting on it. So by code, I need a nomination for that.
I will make the nomination that we approve William Fairbanks as a member of the Utah County Boundary Commission for a staggered 4-year term, which complies with Utah Code annotated 10-2-410.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. And the ayes have it. So at this point, we're going to have Mr. Fairbanks actually sworn in. And so we'll have Alice actually do that process right now.
No, you just want to stand right there? That would be great. Okay, you just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, William Fairbanks,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge
and that I will discharge
the duties of my office with fidelity.
the duties of my office with fidelity.
And here's 2 copies if I can have you sign. Or put your name right there on both of them. top one is yours.
All right, that moves us to item number 3 on the agenda, which is to approve or reject minutes from the August 24th, 2020 Boundary Commission meeting, which was the last time that the Boundary Commission met. Is there any changes or anything that anyone wants to make to those? Nothing. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion then.
I move that we approve the minutes of the August 24th, 2020 Boundary Commission meeting.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Go ahead and, do you have everyone's names or not yet? Go ahead and name first.
Alan Shepard.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on item number 3. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay.
I'm going to abstain because I
Was not a member. So we have, better count how many are here. 5 ayes and 1 abstained, which would be Mr. Fairbanks. All right, I'm going to take a moment for personal privilege here before we get into number 4, just to kind of go over a little bit of what's going on. The Boundary Commission is a quasi-judicial entity set up by the state. It's as I say, judicial. We're not really a bench or a panel or anything like that, but we are a commission, and it's defined in statute as to what we're supposed to do. It's basically for municipal boundaries, and typically it's between cities because each city has its own general plan. And so typically the Boundary Commission is that body that the 2 cities or municipalities come forth. And at the same time, anyone within the defined abilities, which is, I think, almost everybody here, can also protest and has the ability to protest. So based on that, I want to turn some time over to our attorney, and so he can define the parameters of what this commission is actually authorized to do. So I'll turn it over to you, Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Robert Boren with the County Attorney's Office. I'm a Deputy Utah County Attorney. Been advising this board for some time, or this commission, excuse me. We have a number of protests today, so I'll try to be succinct and get through this information. I think it's important both for the commission to hear what your parameters are, and also, and I appreciate what Chairman Polson has stated up in advance, and also for the public to hear. At the conclusion of our public hearing tonight, the Boundary Commission can, 1, approve the annexation with or without conditions, or make minor modifications to the proposed annexation and approve it with or without conditions, or 3, disapprove the proposed annexation. The Boundary Commission must then issue a written decision within 30 days of the conclusion of the public hearing. But note that the Boundary Commission can choose to continue tonight's public hearing, but no later than 60 days from tonight. So you could, if you hear the evidence, you could consider continuing it, but you have a limitation on how long you can continue it for. After the conclusion of the hearing and the written decision being issued, a person that wants to appeal the decision of the Boundary Commission has 20 days to appeal that to the 4th District Court. And for your consideration tonight, you must determine a few things. 1, you have to determine whether it's a valid protest or whether you have jurisdiction to hear that protest. And let me just kind of walk through that a little bit. In order to protest a annexation petition, it has to be really one of these 3 different avenues. It has to be a legislative body or a governing board of a affected entity. Or 2, it has to be an owner of rural real property, and that's a defined term, which means that it's property that is zoned primarily for manufacturing, commercial, or agricultural purposes, and does not include residential units with a density greater than 1 unit per acre. So stated another way, you have to own property, and also you have to have at least an acre of ground in order to protest tonight for this Boundary Commission hearing. The third way you can be a protester is if you are an owner of private real property located in a mining protection area. There is a fourth way, and that relates to if we were in a first-class county. Utah, just so you know, Utah County is not a first-class county. Utah County is a second-class county. The only first-class county in the state of Utah is Salt Lake County. So there is an additional option if you are in Salt Lake County to protest. So assuming that the Boundary Commission has jurisdiction and all these protests are valid, which I think part of what you'll consider tonight, then you have to consider whether the proposed annexation complies with requirements of Utah Code 10-2-402 and 10-2-403 and the annexation policy plan of the proposed annexing municipality, which in this case is Salem City. Just for your information, in evaluating Utah Code 10-2-402, which typically prohibits the creating or leaving of unincorporated islands or peninsulas, there is an exception in that statute that if the county agrees to the leaving of islands or peninsulas, that it is no longer prohibited. And in this particular protest tonight, Utah County has agreed to the leaving of islands and peninsulas from this protest. And that occurred on May 12, 2021. And the resolution evidencing that was provided to you previously. Number 2, you have to consider whether the proposed annexation conflicts with the annexation policy plan of another municipality. And some of the board members that have been here before, longer term, have dealt with that in the past when you had competing municipalities fighting over an annexation. Or number 3, if the proposed annexation includes urban development, will it have an adverse tax consequence on the remaining unincorporated area of the county? And so that's the 3 items that you consider tonight as you listen to the protests, as you review the protests, as you hear from the public. That's what you're focused in on. Other things are beyond the scope of what you're here for. Finally, as mentioned by the chairperson, Paulson, as you make your decision on this matter, you'll be acting in a quasi-judicial role. And therefore, because of that, you can choose to deliberate your decision in private, outside the public purview. And there is a case in Utah that essentially authorizes that, the Utah Supreme Court. So that is kind of a little synopsis of why you're here. Again, focusing on jurisdiction and focusing on those 3 items, complying with 10-2-402 and 403, and conflicting with an annexation policy plan of another municipality, and if it's an urban development, then whether it has tax consequences on the remaining unincorporated land of the county. Any questions for me? Okay. I'm here all night, so I won't stand up and do comedy for you, but I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you. So based on standing, it brings up the question that there may be some of the petitions that may not have standing based on that criteria. We'd still love to hear from you, but I'm just saying your appeal rights and other things, we're going to have to hear from some of you just based on public comment. And that has to do with, are you a property owner? And the other criteria was, do you have over 1 acre, wasn't it, by definition? As I went through the list when I heard about this, like I said, we still would like to hear from you, but I just want to verify, item number 6 is the Harmon, Kelly Harmon. Is Kelly Harmon here?
Harmon or Hammond?
Ham.
Hammond, sorry. I said Harmon, Hammond. The next one would be number 14, which would be Marley Buttons.
I think they're stuck on the freeway.
We can hold off on those until they arrive, so that's fine. I just want to make sure that, well, the rest of these, I'll read them off. Marley Button, is it Micah Buttons? Are they property owners or?
They live in the same place.
They live there as renters or are they properties? As children at the property?
Yeah, they would have to be the actual property owners to qualify.
So are they on title, I guess is what I'm
Correct.
saying, because, okay,
My suggestion, Mr. Chair, is when people come up to present today, you could inquire as when they come up if they're a protester and if they own 1 acre and if they are a property owner.
okay.
So you could inquire and they can state that on the record for you.
All right, we'll hold off on that until they get that. And plus, it sounds like they're going to be here later anyways, so we're good. So number 3 on the agenda is Brenda and Carl Wesson. Are they here?
I think it's actually number 4, but yes.
I'm sorry, number 4. If they're not here, we'll skip that one. If that's okay with, yeah. If that's okay to table that one until, and then we'll bring it up at the end. All right. The next one is to, number 5 is Eric and Kelly Swenson. All right, come on up.
Both of us or just me?
It's up to you.
Okay, I'll do it. My name is Kelly Swenson. I am an owner with my husband of real property. Thank you for the chance to speak tonight. I think I speak for most of us in this room when I say that we're grateful for this opportunity because we feel like this is the first chance that we've had to be heard, and I'll explain why and as I go through my comments. What the attorney was saying, first of all, this process does not comply at all with 10-2403. But that is because about the notification that everyone within 300 feet of the property is to receive written notification at the time of the filing of the petition. And it's very specific about what needs to be in that letter. But that only applies to counties of the first class up until July 1st of this year. Now, unfortunately for us, this process was started not just a few weeks before that. So we did not get notified because of that. The other way we missed out on notification was for the May 12th meeting that you mentioned before about the exception to the islands and peninsula that is in 10-2402. The only notification given for that was a one-line statement on the state website. That's it. Now, you could easily say, well, you should, as citizens, be checking the state, county, city, neighborhood websites every day so you can see these one-line notifications, but we live in the real world and that doesn't happen. And so none of us knew about that meeting. We would have been here if we did. And so on 2 accounts, this notification process for us has completely passed us over. So on those accounts, we're grateful to be heard tonight. So my question, or my comments, I guess, about creating this peninsula and island, which this does, I guess I don't understand why there's a code for it if you're just going to say, oh, you know what, we don't really care. Why is it even there then? Obviously, it's there for a reason. So it's a little confusing to us because what this does, we live in a very rural area outside of the city, and this is coming into where we live, and it's passing by a bunch of other rural areas and creating this funny little spot where there's no transportation corridor there. There's all the surrounding properties are 5 1/4 acres, and we really value that rural way of life. So to me, I really like this code here because this is what protects us as property owners, to be respectful to our way of life and our rights for our properties. Because now we've created an unnatural growth pattern for Salem. If this was all butted up against the city, we really wouldn't have that much of a leg to stand on because we would say, well, that's a natural pattern for a city to grow. But to come and, cherry stem out and then have a very big annexation, 900 acres, over 900 acres, it's just not a healthy growth pattern for a city. And the other thing I wanted to touch on was it also contradicts the Utah County General Plan that is published. As I read through it, it talks about where is the best places to build these developments and communities. It says the first one is in the urban areas already, where they're established, they have water, sewer, all the municipality services that they need. Second is adjacent to those municipalities, where the services are easily and affordably extended. The third is in unincorporated areas, which we would be unincorporated, but where central water systems are already installed. Fourth, in established unincorporated communities where central water systems are not installed, but where urban development has taken place to such an extent that the prohibition of further non-urban development would be impractical. Well, if you've ever visited where we live, there's no water system in place, and there is no urban development where we live. So we're not even on your list here. We're like number 6. That doesn't exist in the general plan for a development like this, annexation like this. And the other things mentioned in the general plan is the goal of Utah County is to have a pleasant and progressive county where people can live and work without sacrificing the traditional rural atmosphere that is inherent in unincorporated areas of the county, and that protects the quality of life and respects the rights of the property owners. Well, this annexation seems in complete contrast to that goal that you have said. I mean, we've seen what's happening all coming south. Everything's turning into a big city, and you're talking multiple times, not you, but this plan talks general plan talks multiple times about preserving the rural atmosphere, and this annexation in the way that it's being done is in contradiction to that. It goes on to further say, to maintain the benefits of greenbelt land use, non-farm residences on parcels of less than 5 acres should not be approved within agricultural zones consisting of prime agricultural and irrigated croplands, which this is. It's currently farmed by Harward Farms. To encourage a pleasant, wholesome neighborhood atmosphere and develop residential areas in a manner that does not conflict with surrounding land use. And I think all of us here would say that a development and annexation of this area would definitely conflict with our land use. We have animals and horses, and there's people with all sorts of animals, and it would definitely be in conflict with that. And I'm almost done, don't worry. It says to maintain prime and agricultural land in active production, which, as I stated, this is, and retain the traditional rural nature of the county. So I just want to, I don't know if you can rescind the May 12th decision and start over so that we can have a chance to come in at that point at the beginning. I'm glad that the code or the law has changed now to provide more adequate notification for people, but we did not have that opportunity until tonight. So because of that horrible notification process, I hope that we can maybe rescind that May 12th decision and start over. But we just urge you to please reconsider this, consider the rural atmosphere and the values that are important to us who live, that are going to be the most affected by this annexation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not really sure how to proceed. Come on up. Come on up. The reason I say that is I think we're going to be covering a lot of the same issue with everyone's petitions, primarily because there was a template that was submitted that had a lot of the exact same identical situations going forward. So I didn't know if we should let everybody voice or take them one at a time, but please go ahead, state your name.
Sure, remember, my name is Vaughn Piquel. I'm the Salem City Attorney, and I'd be happy to give my comments once rather than 20 times if you want, or...
That's what I'm trying to figure out, what would be the best here, because, I don't know, Mr. Moore, maybe I'll ask your opinion in this situation.
Well, I think we'll issue separate decisions for all of them, but I don't think you have to, I think you can consider them all together because it's gonna be a lot of redundant information, I assume. But like you said, you've read the protests, a lot of similar language in the protests, so you'll probably receive a lot of same information tonight, which I think is good to know, but you don't need to be told 20 times the same thing necessarily, so.
Right.
I think you can do that. You have the option to, Mr. Piquel can wait and you can have him come up later if you want, and hear from the folks, or whatever you desire. I mean, depends on how long you want to be here, I guess, but part of that.
Before you proceed, I'm just going to bring it back up to the commission. And is there a certain way that you want to proceed with this? I've read every one of the statements that the protests have come in, and the only reason I bring this up is there is a lot of similarities between them. And so, anyway, I'll bring it up to the commission to decide how they want to
I
proceed.
think if they have anything different than that form letter, I think it'd be fine to hear him. But I think the attorney for Salem City, he may hear something in those other letters that we need an answer for. So yeah, I think you could give your opinion now on what you think, but if there's something else, we'd like to be able to call you back up and
That's fine, absolutely.
answer some questions. Yeah.
Sure.
I will state that this agenda item was not part of that form letter. This was, I don't want to say authored, but it was authored as an original. So anyway, I'll turn the time over to you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. And thanks for taking some time tonight. I know you all have, personal lives and families, and it's a Monday evening. Thanks for taking some time to consider an annexation that concerns Salem and some people in the county near Salem. The city received 20 protests, and they address a number of different issues, important issues like land use and water and conservation and traffic, many important issues that the Salem City Council should consider as they decide whether or not to approve the annexation and a development plan that is proposed for that area. But of those 20 protests, I reviewed each one of them, and I think they fall into three different categories. And the three categories are based on the type of protest and what's included, whether they are an owner of real property or not, and so on. The first category is those that are not entitled to protest because they're not an owner of real property, which we heard about before. I counted 8 protests fall into that first category of not having standing to protest. The owner of real property is defined in Utah Code as being zoned primarily for manufacturing, commercial, or agricultural purposes, and does not include residential units with a density greater than 1 unit per acre. So of those 8, That would be the Christo Furman protest. That property is located in Spanish Fork City on a 3rd-acre lot zoned R16, which is a density greater than 1 unit per acre. And that property is not zoned for manufacturing, commercial, or agricultural purposes. The Kelly Hammond protest does not own the property listed on the protest and therefore is not an owner of rural real property. And then the next 6 of the 8 are Micah Button, Whitney Button, Marley Button, Isaac Button, Riley Button, and Sidney Button, who I understand are the children of Nicholas and Rachel Button. And they are not listed on the title of that property either, so they are not owners of rural real property. The second category, which I count 3 protests in this category, do not address any of the required statutory standards. They address, like I mentioned before, a lot of important issues, but not the required statutory issues. Under Utah law, each protest must state each reason for the protest of the annexation, and if it is located in an annex, located in a specified county, such as Utah County, justification for the protest must be under the standards established in the chapter or in the annexation statute. So 3 protests do not mention anything from the annexation statutes. Those 3 protests are the Brendan Carl Wesson, Sylvia Hansen, and the Bruce and Michelle Murdock protests. The final category of protests are those that mention a statutory standard, such as the Swensons that mention the peninsula issue, which is an issue in the annexation statute. But the county has agreed to allow leaving an unincorporated peninsula. The statute allows the city and county to agree to leave an unincorporated peninsula if the area is within the city's expansion area. The county and the city agree the area is not within another city's annexation policy plan, and the annexation is for the purpose of providing municipal services. As we talked about earlier, the county commission has already indicated this agreement by adopting resolution number 2021-455, whereby it consented to the annexation. Salem City can choose to formalize that agreement when it adopts an ordinance approving the annexation. The 9 different protests in that 3rd category that mention that peninsula issue, but has already been overcome by the county commission's resolution, are the Lila Johnson, Max and Gay Walentine, Melinda McBride, Paul Burgon, Roger Hamlet, Sherry Norris, Eric and Kelly Swenson, Nicholas Button, and Rachel Button protests. Mrs. Swenson mentioned a few things I'd like to address, and maybe I'll reserve some time later as we hear from each of the different people that speak tonight. She cited a lot from the county general plan. Nowhere in the annexation code that I could find does it say the boundary commission's job is to consider the county's general plan. The issue is whether or not the annexation would comply with the city's annexation policy plan, and it does comply with Salem City's. It doesn't overlap with another city. Spanish Fork and Salem have a coterminous boundary. They don't overlap, and therefore it's not conflicting with Spanish Fork's annexation policy plan. And therefore, in conclusion, I would just urge you to disregard each of the 20 protests for the different reasons mentioned tonight. Either they don't have standing to protest because they're not an owner of real property, they do not address the statutory standards, or even if they do mention the peninsula issue, the county has already agreed, which is provided for in the Utah Code as an allowed. That's all I have for now.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to talk about item number 5? I'm going to bring it back up to the commission. How do you want to proceed? Do you want to continue down with each one and give everyone an opportunity to speak?
Yeah, let's continue.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, let's do that. Let's go on to number 6. This is the Kelly Hammond Is Kelly Hammond here? We heard earlier that they were stuck on the road, so we can skip over this one and come back to it. Number 7 is Krista Fariman. Did I say that right? Berman? I don't see Krista is present. So we're going to skip over that one and we can come back to that one. Just remarking these. Number 8 is Lila Johnson. Is Lila here? Number 9, Max and Gay Walentine. If I pronounce someone's name wrong, let me know, okay? Number 10, Melinda McBride. We don't see Melinda here. Number 11 is Paul Bergan.
He's stuck
Bergen?
in traffic.
He's on his way.
All right. Number 12 is Nicholas Button.
He's stuck in traffic.
Should we lump most of those all in one since they're all the children?
There are only Rachel. Is she also stuck in traffic?
He's not stuck in traffic. Glad to see you. I'm going to skip down to number 20. Well, let me ask this: with the button protest, are there any buttons in the audience right now? None? Okay. That takes us down to item number 20. Roger Hamlet. Is Roger Hamlet here? Three left.
Number 21 is Sherry Norris. Sherry's not here.
Two left.
Number 22 is Sylvia Hansen. Welcome.
Welcome. That's right. Thank you. Do you accept 83-year-old people's positions? I'd appreciate that. I'm Sylvia Hansen. My husband was Kent Hansen. I've lived on 8800 South since we started building our house in 1972. And we moved in the 1973, and we have been there ever since. And you do the subtraction or addition, whatever you want. I wrote a personal letter of my two concerns, and I didn't do the legally kind. I wrote it by hand. And my two concerns are water. The BYU well is 650 feet deep. And so is our well, the Bradford Acres, and many of the people you listed before were on the same aquifer. And I'm concerned with that many homes, that's their source of water. Will we lose our water? Over 2,000 people, possibly. That's a real concern for all of us. The second one is, of course, traffic. 8800 right now has large trucks and lots of traffic, and they come down the hill very fast. And if I pull out my road to go out, I'm on a lane, you can't see the cars coming from the east. They come so fast. I have to be careful. It's a winding, narrow road. It goes by the Spanish Fort Golf Course, and it goes to Highway 6. So it's a natural road for a lot of people to want to use now. Salem isn't required to widen that road. They don't own it. They haven't annexed it. How are we going to make that road adequate? They worked on it so hard, just this west end of the road, but it's still not adequate for heavy, heavy traffic. And of course, going west, I feel the same way. I know there's going to be a road that they're going to put through the BYU annexation, but really it doesn't go east. It's going to be a lot of traffic for us, and it's hard for me to handle. I hope you reconsider the problems. Sewer, we're on a septic tank. What do they be on? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go on to number 23 now. That's the Bruce and Michelle Murdock.
Thank you very much. My name is Bruce Murdock. I own an acre of land, and I own my house. I'm the title holder along with my wife. Been there since 1999 on 8898 South 400 East in the county. I have a single point to make here, and this is where I'm really concerned. Okay, I mean, everything Kelly Swenson said and Mrs. Hansen, I agree with. I think those are serious problems. But I want to talk about the notice or lack thereof that was given for this hearing on May 12th. Apparently, it was just a line on a website. I heard about it for the first time today. Okay, I suspect pretty much everybody interested is in similar situation, did not get notice. Now, this body is subject to the Constitution of both the United States and the state. Notice is a constitutional requirement, particularly we've got interest, property rights, the enjoyment and use of property, all at issue here. Now, apparently for this proceeding, this was considered adequate notice. I got this in the mail and it worked. I'm here. I think everybody did, right? Okay. How come we didn't get this kind of notice for the previous hearing? I think you have a constitutional problem. We didn't get adequate notice. The remedy, the proper thing to do, rescind the agreement regarding islands and peninsulas with Salem City, send out proper notice so that everybody interested can be heard, can have a chance to research the issue, present a proper argument, present proper issues for this body to consider, and have a rehearing. Otherwise, I think you have a constitutional problem. I'm going to leave it at that. And thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. We're gonna come back to item number 7. Item number 7 is Krista
Furman.
Furman. Krista Furman has actually joined us online, and we'd like to extend the mic to her.
Mr. Chairman, this is one of the ones that the concern was that she owned less than an acre. So you may want to inquire as to her.
All right. So I'll wait. Can she hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Krista. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. And
I've
hello to
got,
Andrea.
I've just got, sorry for not pronouncing your name right. I've just got one housekeeping item I need to ask you. As a property owner, you are a property owner, is that correct?
Correct.
And the question has come up because of the code that the property must be greater than 1 acre. The property that you own and that is in question, is it greater than 1 acre or less than 1 acre?
It is not. It's a third of an acre. And the reason why I signed the petition is I wanted the county to understand the far-reaching effects of this. I live in Spanish Fork, and I understand that UDOT proposes to bring a road from Highway 6 that will go directly behind my third-acre property, down 2300 East, down into the river bottoms, and feed back up into Woodland Hills. And the understanding is that it will direct all traffic to this property that's being proposed to be annexed into Salem City behind my home. So though I may not have an acre, it still will affect my family and the way of life that we enjoy, and cause detriment to us as well as anyone along that road when that traffic increases.
Is there anything else you'd like to say, Krista?
No, you think 700 homes, and if everyone's a 2 to 3 car family, that's putting 14 to 2,100 vehicles driving behind residential areas and a higher speed. I understand it's supposed to be a 5-lane road, which means it's probably going to be around 35, 40 miles per hour between us and Woodland Hills. So that's the main objection I have, is the increased traffic that will suddenly appear behind my home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask Mr. Murdock, do you know where they're at yet? I don't know if they're communicating or not.
Yeah, I just got a text from Nick Button. He says it could be hours. So it sounds bad.
Come on up.
An accident?
Yeah. And just your name.
I'm Jill Bergen. I'm a property owner. We have 5 acres on 8800. And my husband had a prepared statement, but he is about 20 minutes away. Is there a way that he could zoom in or call or somehow make a statement that way?
Yeah, Alice is going to get you some information here.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, you have a number of people out here. Maybe you would want to take the public comment portion at this point while you're waiting for others to come.
Just by raise of hand, we're going to move into this public comment because we want to extend an opportunity, if you're here, to speak to this. How many of you would like to speak to this item? Okay. Let's begin with public comment then, and then we can swing back to these other agenda items if they're able to. So there is no order, but when you come up, please state your name for the record.
I'm Dave Clare. I live in Salem. I have over 3 acres, property owner. I just want to thank you for this opportunity because the notice is a concern. A lot of us are in the dark. we could probably fill this room with landowners that would state the statuation. I mean, I hate to have the legal play games with this, but if we need to follow that, we can. But there's just a lot of people I know that are not here that would be here with the same concerns. So I just would give that representation that a lot of us we're in the dark
Thank you.
about a lot of things. So bless you. Bless you.
Thank you.
My name is Jen Watson. I am a property owner, but not completely affected by that. But I kind of have a different perspective. I was part of the master plan that was developed for Salem City. And at that time, the BYU farm, we knew that it was going to be sold. And Salem
And
City.
can I just interrupt for a second?
Sure.
The plan that you're talking about was the one that was adopted in 2019?
I think so. About the time.
Is that
About that
correct?
time.
Okay, yes.
Being part of that plan, we hired a professional to help us develop a good plan, a good picture of what the citizens would like to see happen in Salem. Paid a professional, and I have to tell you, other than Salem Days, we had the most outcome I've ever seen for any public meeting like that. And as a matter of fact, the professional that helped us develop the plan was very impressed with the concern the citizens had. The farm, everyone agreed it would be larger. I cannot remember if it was 1/2 acre or 1 to 5 acres. I'm thinking it was 1 to 5 acres per household over there. So, and all of this huge development, things like this, were supposed to be down by the freeway. And so that is what the majority of the people wanted. Let me see. I don't believe that Salem will benefit in the long run. There might be impact fees. There might be a lot of other things that the council and the mayor and other legal people are looking at. But I think in the long run, Salem is not going to benefit from this. The way it's situated, to me, they're going to hop on Highway 6 and go shop in Spanish Fork, or hop on 198 and go shop in Spanish Fork, where there's a lot more variety. I know that we're trying to get more commercial into the town, but that's what I see, is that Salem will be stuck with a lot of the maintenance and other such things. I did visit a place up in Saratoga Springs where the roads are so small that you cannot even get a snowplow through there. And I don't know if these things have been updated since that first plan was adopted from Dr. Horton, but that will not help Salem either. We will be stuck, as far as I'm concerned, we're going to be stuck with a large mess that we have to clean up as citizens. And I just want to maybe represent those citizens who care about Salem, who are not here, who don't own more of an acre, and who aren't immediately impacted by that area, but will be eventually impacted. So thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ryan Button. I'm the brother and uncle of the listed to many of these. My wife and I, my family and I, we live on 8800. We have 5 acres. I think we have rural interest. I guess I just want to second so much of what's been said by my neighbors and friends over, the opposition that we feel and protest to the development of that area, our area, our home, and the surrounding area. I've not formally gone through the process to be on this list, but just wanted to, take a second and let you know that there's myself and others like me that feel the same way for all of those reasons stated, and would really appreciate the consideration of, I guess where we're at there in the area, what would be the best for the area. And we know we're not the only ones, we're the only ones that have interest. Obviously, there's another big property owner there, but, I think something that exists there's a certain quality of life that exists in Salem. And as people move in, I've noticed being in the construction industry that, you know, the kind of principal value, the things that are offered there. People love Salem, they love Spanish Fork, they love Utah County, Utah in general. But as we see all these increases come in, we have to know that we're subjecting ourselves to some massive types of changes, and it would be in our long-term best interest to try to measure those and really account for those so that we keep an existing quality. Otherwise, things get out of hand over $1, and then we don't like where we live, many of us, many of you even. And just wanted to kind of reiterate that and try to maybe bring that into a little bit of thought. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, come on up and. No, you're fine. You're fine. There.
At the risk of making myself look really silly, I just wanted to stand up too. By the way, that young lady was my wife, and she should have been a lawyer.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
So my name is Mike Watson.
Mike Watson.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'm a landowner, but not in that area, just a citizen. But my hope is that we can go back to that date where we really weren't informed. And I'm hoping that, and this is more to Salem, you know, those who are moving this forward in spite of a lot of public input, we could reset this and go back to that master plan. We love Salem, and I think there's a lot of issues that would be created with the way that master plan has not gone forth. Anyway, that's all I have.
Thank you. I'm gonna jump back. Oh, well, let me come back to you. I'm not cutting off public comment. I was just informed that agenda item number 12, which is Nick Button, is actually on Zoom. And so we're gonna untable number 12 and allow Nick Button to make a comment. So as soon as you're ready with that. Can you unmute yourself, Nick?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I feel a little bit of a disadvantage in not being able to participate in the whole meeting, and I just was able to get to where I could use electronic to jump on Zoom. So I haven't been able to hear all the arguments. I didn't get to hear the attorney for the city speak. But I have been to some of the council meetings in the beginning, and did hear the arguments of the island and peninsula and dates and notifications and the idea of bringing in a higher density housing than what was originally mapped out and agreed to years ago, from what I understand. And I'm not totally familiar with the process, not to discredit myself, but to also express that there are obvious things that may be being addressed, but are not changed. And regardless of development, it's kind of a mess as far as being able to access Salem. Spanish Fork's getting really crowded every day, worse and worse, and the planning side of it, I think it needs to be really looked at. The idea of trying to, with a proposal of doubling Salem, and maybe it's a tidal wave that's coming no matter what, but I certainly doesn't sit well with me the way that it is being proposed with such high density housing and the other things that I mentioned. So I oppose this this, what would you call it, development. Oppose this development. 100% oppose it. The way that it currently is to my understanding.
Thank you,
That's
Nick.
my comment.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Nick. We also have, trying to find the agenda number, Paul Bergen, number 11, which we tabled. So we're going to bring Paul Bergen on via Zoom. Paul, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. I just had to unmute.
Go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, great, thanks. I think some of my neighbors have probably already made some of the same points I would, but I'd just like to make 3 points. I mean, it sounds like this meeting is is cursory in nature. It sounds like the outcome has already been decided, and that's pretty disappointing. But that's kind of the nature of my comments. Is that there's 3 things where the local government process has failed us as me and my neighbors, and maybe this commission doesn't have the interest or the ability to change it, but I'd like to put it on record anyway. So first, as far as the May 12th meeting, providing notice and one line on a state website is not adequate notice. And if we would have, as a neighborhood, have had any idea that the county was going to consider whether to give a waiver to state law, the standing state law, in order to enable an island and a peninsula, we would have shown up in huge force. But we didn't know about it, so we couldn't comment. That's pretty disappointing, because you're issuing a waiver to existing state law. You're making an exception, and the state law is supposed to protect us all, and you're making an exception, and you don't provide adequate notice to tell people that you're going to make an exception to state law. And that process failed us. We were not notified. We could not give our voice. And, we have 3,400 signatures in a petition against this development. So, this is not 1 or 2 wackos saying, hey, they don't agree. We have 3,400 signatures. It's basically, I don't know what the population of Salem is. It's roughly the population of Salem. And I think that should have been given the opportunity to play out and to let everyone give their voice. And that did not happen, and that process completely failed the citizens of Salem and the annexation area. Second, the law has been changed, apparently according to notice provided according to pending annexation. And I was told by Robert Moore today that, as of July 1st, everybody in Utah is going to be notified of the pending annexation. But that law, since it went into effect July 1st, and this process started before that, notice was not given to the surrounding residents of the timing of this process where they could have been more involved. And so that problem, that's a problem. It was fixed. I'm glad it's fixed for future people, future residents of Utah. I mean, I'm glad that's fixed. But just because Utah County isn't as big as Salt Lake County, or, we're not a first-class county, that process completely failed us. And we were not notified, and there was no notice given to anyone in the surrounding area of the annexation. So again, you've got a process that was viewed as faulty and has been fixed, but that faulty process did not protect us as state law intends. And so again, you've got the intention of state law and county law failing the residents of Salem. And then third, we've always, everyone says, well, you should interact with the government, the city government of Salem. And, that's been a very trying and very frustrating process, to be honest. I mean, you call, no one returns your phone calls at Salem. You email, nobody responds. You show up at meetings and they say, you don't show up very often, as if there's some sort of minimum requirement that you have to show up to every meeting before they'll actually take you seriously. Or, if you express your frustration and you tell them that you think they're doing it wrong, and that another view should be taken and that other steps should be taken, you sit down and then each one of them take a turn lambasting you because you had the gall and the audacity to tell them that you thought that they were doing it wrong, which is what happened with me. So in each step, whether it's the interaction with the city, whether it's, notification of the May 12th meeting, whether it's notification of pending annexation in general, the state has set a process that's supposed to protect the residents. And in each of these three cases, it has completely and totally failed the residents. And so, look, this process is apparently a fait accompli. You guys are going to sign, the decision tonight that, you're going to go ahead and deny this. And that's your right. And it sounds like it was decided, even before this meeting even started. But I just want you to know that from my perspective, if you do that, when you sign that piece of paper, you are saying that you don't care enough about local government working to do anything about it. You don't care enough, even though you are elected officials, even though you are spending a lot of time and effort in trying to uphold, sustain the law and serve the people. If you sign that piece of paper and you deny this protest, you are saying that you don't care enough to do anything about it. And that's what really makes me mad, is when people who have the ability to do things, to make sure the process works as the spirit and the law intends in the state of Utah, they don't. And so go ahead and sign, the denial. But in my opinion, as you do, you are saying that you don't care enough. Or, in my opinion, you could rescind and withdraw the May 12th decision and actually allow public comment and actually allow us to present our 3,400 signatures and actually allow the process to work as it's designed and as it's intended and as the state legislature intended. And then we can actually have faith and confidence in our local government and in the process that's supposed to protect us. But if you don't rescind the May 12th agreement, then you are basically saying you don't care enough to protect the intent of local government. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. We'll come back to public comment now, so come on up.
My name is Marilyn Cope, and I own 40 acres. And this property has been in my family for 64 years. I was raised on this property, along with some other people out in the audience. I have neighbors who are out here who were also raised with me since I was a young child. And we would like to see this area to maintain to be a rural atmosphere for our grandchildren, so that they can ride their horses, herd cattle, grow crops. Bringing in 2,000 homes is going to wreak havoc on this. It's going to affect our water, our wells. The traffic will be horrendous. I'd like you, as a panel, to reconsider this, because we'd really like this to continue to be a beautiful rural area. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Val Cope. I'm Marilyn's wife, her husband. And we own 5 acres together, so I'm legit here. Anyway, one of the concerns, we talk about this water on this property that Marilyn was talking about. We have a well there that we used to use to irrigate. We had a 3-horse pump. We could irrigate the fields, the sprinklers. We used all the water that we needed. We had adequate rights and everything. When Salem City bought into Harry Davis's well, he dug that big well up there. All of a sudden, our pump quit working. We brought a man in to test it, and the pump was 10 feet above where the water was. And not only that, all that was left was 10 feet of water. We drilled our own well on our property where we live. We had about 50 feet of water there. We now have 30. So this water thing is a real concern. And I don't know if you've ever priced digging a well. You know, we can go and try and redig the well, but that's almost impossible. We're talking $80,000 in some cases. So it's a huge concern to us. That's our system. That's what we use for our water. It's a very real concern. Another thing that really disturbs me is, have any of you tried to get onto Main Street during rush hour in Spanish Fork? It's almost impossible. It's all the traffic coming from Woodland Hills and Salem. And now you're going to add more to it? And I don't think your infrastructure is anywhere near what is needed. We're way short the way it is. Going across Woodland Hills Drive, I've got a son that lives on the other side. We go visit there quite often. I've sat and waited at that light, and the light gives you just a few seconds, and I've literally, no traffic, I've literally said, I'm done, and I run the red light because I'm tired of waiting 10 minutes. It's not, you know, there's just all kinds of problems with the traffic here, and it's not being addressed properly, and we're just not prepared for this. We bought that property out there from my father-in-law, built our house there. Our intent was to have a rural place where our children could enjoy true sustainable development, because if something happens in the economy, I've got food, I've got water, I've got utilities, I've got the things that I need. That is sustainable development. And you're wiping it out with apartment buildings and condominiums and everything else. We built in that area. We've invested a fortune to have what we desire, and it's being taken away from us because people want to make money. I think we need to really consider that and think of what we're trying to create as a community and how we're going to live in the future. I don't want to live in this mess that we have in Utah County and in the rest, I mean, in the urban areas. It's just horrible. That's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you. I know there's a few more hands out there.
Good evening, Scott Bishop. I'm with D.R. Horton, and I'm the applicant. I'm not a property owner. I don't own any of the land that's being annexed, but I'm not sure how to address all of the issues, but tonight, or what's appropriate to address tonight. But a lot of the concerns that people have, there's a lot of misconceptions about what's happening and what we're doing, and things like traffic, water, development, and numbers, and all of those kinds of things. We're working really hard with experts to make sure that we plan it well, and with the city and the infrastructure and those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, we truly have tried to understand state statute, tried to follow it. We've tried to make sure that we've followed all the processes that we should. We believe that we have. As D.R. Horton, as a developer, we represent the property owners that do want to annex, and they should have a right to do so. They should have a say in where they want to be and what they want to do with their land that they've invested in as well for years and years, and have owned and maintained, and at this time they seek to annex. We took an approach to just invite those that would like to participate. And it is a little bit challenging with such a big piece of ground, as it comes in. It would be nice if just square chunks just popped in and just kind of like Legos built the city, but it just doesn't work that way. And so as we've tried hard to work with the neighbors that are immediately surrounding ours that would be in part of Salem City's annexation plan, and asked who would like to participate in the annexation and who wouldn't. All those that wanted to, we put them in, and that's when we came and met with commissioners and kind of showed them the shape and layout of what we've got, and discussed, if any annexed or peninsulas or islands would cause an issue to the county, and followed that process. But we still want to work with neighbors. We believe that there are solutions, and many of them we believe we've already got solutions to issues that have been expressed. And we are empathetic. We understand growth is hard. It's hard to see that change and those things. But there's a high need. There's a housing crisis in Utah County. We do need homes, and rural life and density is definitely it's all comparative, it's relative, and we are planning a lot of open space and trails and improvements that will benefit and bless the residents and the community around. And so we hope that the rights of the property owners, some of them are here tonight, but we hope that they're considered as well, and that they be able to do what they wish to do with their own land and move forward with the annexation. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got someone standing, and then you're next. Is that okay? All right.
My name is Janae Ovison, and I am a real property owner on 8800 South with 5 acres. And I just wanted to, I won't take the time to restate all of the things that my neighbors and the people in our area have shared. But I do just want to add my name and my voice to the opposition to what is being done in our area. Many of us, if you've heard, have been there for decades, and as D.R. Horton's representative says, urban lifestyle is all relative, but we are the ones who live there right now, and the way that we have the opportunity to live is the way we would like to continue living. We would like to be heard. I am part of that 3,400 petition signature, my husband and I both. We've taken the opportunities to attend the Salem City Council meetings. We've signed up, we've spoken, we've expressed opinions, and I don't know that it matters to you, but we do feel we aren't being heard. And in regards to notification, not only were we part of the group that did not receive notification for the May 12th changes, the letters that came out for tonight, I would question where the addresses came from. Mine was mailed to a P.O. box in Spanish Fork that has never, in my 28 years in Spanish Fork, been associated with myself, my real property, or any of my businesses. And it only fell into my hands because the person who owns that P.O. box happened to know me because I've been in the area so long, took the time to drive it to my house and bring it to me. Otherwise, I would never have even known about this meeting tonight. So I would say that notification is a big issue that as we proceed and go forward, we need to look into maybe the accuracy of that. As it has been stated, I think there are many people who, had they been notified, would be here adding their voice because their names are already on the petitions that have been submitted to Salem City. And in closing, I just want to emphasize that we appreciate your time and allowing the process to work, but we would like to also go back and have proper notifications so that all those who were unable and unnotified can be a part of this process like they've tried to be by working with Salem City. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to address this body. My name is William Burke. I am a current resident of Salem, owner of slightly over 5 acres of land, not in the directly affected area, but very close to it, 1 block north of 8800. I'm right on the limit between Salem City and Utah County on my land. I'd like to just kind of take an opportunity to maybe clarify a few things that I don't think were perhaps represented correctly tonight. Public notice. I agree that maybe the county could have done a better job. However, I also make note that it's not just the county that has to approve the annexation. Salem City also has to approve the annexation, which they already have, after numerous notices to the public and great attendance by some of the same people that are here tonight at those meetings. So it's not a complete surprise to anybody. I didn't even get a notification of this meeting, and I heard about it from various sources. So that maybe is a counterbalancing factor there. Traffic. I really feel for the 83-year-old neighbor of mine because we have some of the same issues on State Road 198 with traffic and getting out of our property we're right on it. And sometimes it takes a long time. However, the issue brought up with some, I think it was someone else in the group, the 1/3 acre owner perhaps, and the roads that are going to be going through, plus the ones mentioned on that connect 8800 North to Highway 6, those have nothing, absolutely nothing to do with this annexation. That's a Department of Transportation plan that has been on the books, accessible to anybody who wants to look for years. Those roads have been planned, and they were planned by the state or the county, I'm not sure which, to alleviate the traffic problems we have in the area, to have greater access to Highway 6, and to have greater access throughout the area. And if they object to those, they ought to take them to the right people. But I think they're not going to hurt us because traffic is increasing. There's nothing we can do to stop it. And they're trying to plan a better system of roads throughout the area. And it is not dependent on the annexation. Those roads will be built. And 8800 North will be widened. There will probably be traffic signals along there to help slow the fast traffic through there. I don't know. And maybe somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Water. Yeah, we're on a well. We've had several neighbors that have had their wells dry up. Very expensive, big problem. Personally, I can't wait for the infrastructure of Salem City to reach where my house is so I can connect to city water and don't have to depend on a well that is probably going to dry up on me before I have access to any other water. I mean, these things are being addressed by Salem City. And every time they build homes and developments such as this one, they take those things into account. Where's the water coming from? The developers have to provide that water before they give permits to build those homes. They're not only going to provide city water, they're going to provide city sewer, so we don't have to depend on a septic tank anymore, which causes problems from time to time. As far as the density in the master plan, I think that was a subject of discussion on more than one occasion in the Salem City meetings. I was present at several of them. And their city is trying very hard to hold the density down to what's reasonable, as opposed to something that would be 2-3 times higher density than what's being proposed by D.R. Horton. The other thing is, this land is going to get sold. It's going to get developed, if not by D.R. Horton, by someone else. There's no stopping that. I think we all know that. I would rather see it done as a big project with a reputable developer who works very well with the city, because I've seen them in those meetings working together, and saying, hey, city, tell us what you need, tell us what you want. We'll change our plan to fit what you want and what your citizens want. That's the kind of developer I'd like to see come in and plan something very well done, high quality, who has the resources, as opposed to selling that land off 900 acres piece by piece and have 50 different developers do things that don't even connect. I've seen that happen a lot. So I, for one, am in favor of the annexation and D.R. Horton's continual working with the city to address, which I think they are doing very well, all the issues that are coming up. That's my personal opinion.
Thank you. I've got somebody in the back, and then we'll come to you.
How are you this evening? My name is Trent Scott, probably one of the newest, if not the newest, member of the community here. Recently purchased a property off 8800 own just over 7 acres. And definitely have heard, I mean, I have the same concern as many here. We are on a well. This is a new venture for us because we've had 2 homes here actually in Orem until we recently moved down to Salem in May. But anyways, just biggest concern, you know, hasn't really been thought out that much. I see, you know, with all the droughts and everything going. I actually work for a company that we own and operate mobile home communities across the nation. We have 21,000 sites. But just knowing, and I do the development for them, and just knowing, you know, all the infrastructure and everything that it takes and the difficulties, you know, city water is great. I have seen areas in the country that it fails. Same thing with sewer. I have seen them, you know, sewer treatment plants that fell, you know, they back up into the home. You know, you name it, I've just about seen it. Due to the older gentleman that was just up. I guess my biggest concern is, you know, the safety of my children, safety of the community, you know, the crops, the animals and everything that's out there that's being, you know, essentially the lifestyle that we just moved out there for, now no longer being attainable for us. And I do realize, you know, D.R. Horton, they own the land. They should have the ability to do with what they want with their land. But I also know the fact that, you know, what they decide has a massive impact on those around them. And we have to know what that impact is. It's no different than, you know, if a landfill were to come in and be right next door to you, you'd probably, you know, have an argument there. You know, I don't want a landfill right next door to me. It has a massive impact. You know, you might have trash. It's going to, you know, taint the water. It's, you know, numerous different things. And like I said, there's a lot of points that I agree with. There's some that I don't, but I just want to make sure that we are clear in, you know, the path moving forward, you know, the safety of the current residents that are there. You know, my children are young. My oldest is 7, and then I have 4 younger than that. But like I said, I had no idea this meeting was today at all. And I had honestly no idea the plan moving forward. Like I said, you know, I'm one of the newer individuals in the area, but it would be nice to know, you know, the plan moving forward. You know, I hear that there's a road going in. I don't know exactly where that's going, you know, whose property that's going through. I don't know if that affects me or not, with a recent land purchase. But like I said, it's, you know, respect to everybody, but I also want to just reiterate the impact that the development would have, you know, with the increased traffic heading down Main Street. I go there every day, but along with the surrounding communities of, you know, what's going on with Woodland Hills and Elk Ridge and, you know, everything like that, that there's close communication, because if not, I mean, it's just going to turn into a train wreck, and I've seen it before. So.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Murdock, and I live, 400 East. That goes by the BYU property, is right in front of our house. And I don't have a statement like how everyone else does, and everyone else sounds very professional to me, and I'm not like that, but I'm against all of it. It's just going to ruin where we live, and I don't know if any of you have ever been out there. I think you have about, 20 days before you make your decision? Or I don't know what you had said earlier, but I invite all of you, all 7 of you, to come to my house. Just, you know, stay for a couple hours and just take in what a beautiful place, what we have, and what will be completely destroyed and taken from us. You know, if you've ever been out there, the last couple of years, we've had light winters, but in the past, maybe you've seen or heard how the herd of elk come down. I don't know if you've ever seen that or come to look, but It's a really beautiful place. And I hope that before, I'm guessing you have, you know, the 7 of you have the power to make this decision. And I'm guessing you can, you know, help us if you chose. But I hope that you will think, ponder, and inquire of your most favorite person in the universe of whether or not the annexation would be the right thing. And try to consider of being in our shoes and what it feels like for us and how it's going to hurt us and our families. I have 4 kids also. My youngest is 11. And they even want to, you know, they just want it to be beautiful. And we know that it's, you know, at some point people are going to develop, but, you know, we invested so much money in our property. We're on 1 acre. But in the last little while, we have invested so much money to be able to stay in such a pretty area because we wanted to live here forever in such a beautiful place. And I hope that you will consider those things and not strictly consider the other side. You know, I understand that they bought the land. I get that. But with all the development and all the money that they're going to make, I doubt any one of them is going to actually live there. We're still living there. And I hope you will consider that before you make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rachel Lynn Button. My husband's back there, and then you've heard some of my family speak. And this is my family right here, my community, my neighbors. Salem is a city of peace, something we all enjoy. We are in the county area, being off of 8800, but we enjoy the blessing that we have of peace that's out there and the beauty. And a lot of the people here that I hurried a text that I got this notification just an hour before this started, totally in the dark. Super frustrating, the communication between not being in the city versus the county. So that's very frustrating. We moved there about 15 years ago. We've enjoyed having an elk ranch, goats, sheep, pigs, chickens, dogs, cats. And we have enjoyed raising our family there. We were coming here to have the life of a homesteader and enjoy those freedoms. All these friends, most of them here are farmers, something we're losing a lot of right now. And I just hope that you would take in consideration this. I'm in total opposition for this annexation. Thank you.
Rachel, before you go, there's agenda item number 13. There's a Rachel Buttons.
That's
on
my
that.
sister-in-law.
Okay.
I'm Ryan's wife.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, Rachel Lynn Button.
Thank you.
They said the freeway got closed and they were in their travels here, so that's why they're not here. But she might be on Zoom. She might be with Nick. I don't know. I can check. Thank you.
Just to clarify things, this is Rachel Lynn. The other Rachel is Rachel Ray.
Thank you.
Just Rachel Barber.
Hello, my name is Kim Scott. You heard from my husband, Trent Scott. We recently purchased property down in the area, and we own a little over 7 acres. And we moved from Orem. We've lived in Orem for about the last 8 years. In a small neighborhood on 1/4 of an acre with houses surrounded all around on city water, and we absolutely hated it. The city water, when you're metered on your water, is very expensive. Now that we have a well where we're at, and we just pay for the power for the well, and the well's there. And I still own properties in Orem, and I still see all the difference in utilities, and I have just been in awe of how much we love it down. The whole reason that we saved our entire marriage to buy this property down there, the market is really high right now. I think you all can agree to that. But we saved all of our money so that we could purchase this place and have the lifestyle for our children. And just to move there to find out that all of this is happening, we're very frustrated with all of this and opposed to what's going, I guess, in the works here. We love the lifestyle. We take our kids out. They love that we can go for walks or bike rides. We can see deer and elk. There's just the country life. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents that we, along with a lot of the other people in the community, have concerns for that, and we have saved. And the reason that we moved out there wasn't so that we could be surrounded by houses again. It was so that we could be in the country. So thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Eric Swenson, and I also own 5 acres near the BYU property. And it's kind of interesting. Here we talk about D.R. Horton came up and talked about it, and they don't own the property yet. And I know they love to talk about how they're the nation's biggest home builder, and I think it's interesting too that I don't quite understand why the Salem city government is so keen on doing this annexation when they know that a big portion of the city is against this annexation. The city government's for it, but the people of Salem really are not for this annexation. But I just like to also they're the nation's biggest home builder, which kind of makes me kind of second guess their real intent in making sure that this turns out to be a great community, because they'll obviously leave when it's gone. They're not a local developer. They're not a local. They don't have I really can't see how they would have the best interests of the community at large. But just a quick reminder: Vaughn Piquel said that that we shouldn't consider the general plan of Utah County that was written for situations just like this. I don't quite understand why we shouldn't consider those, especially given the fact that, as multiple people have stated tonight, proper notification wasn't given on the May 12th meeting. At that meeting, maybe it would have mattered if we could have voiced our concern over this with the general plan, and maybe it would have mattered at that meeting. But at this point, it seems like he thinks it doesn't matter. But I don't see why there is a general plan if we're just supposed to disregard it and not think about the reasons that are written in it. Why is there a general plan? So thank you.
Thank you. You got like 4 seconds. Get up here.
I just wanted to. I didn't realize who
Go
D.R.
ahead.
Horton
Go
was.
ahead and state
I'm
your
Ryan
name.
Button. Yeah. I didn't realize who D.R. Horton was as a developer, but $20.3 billion in revenues in the fiscal year through September 2020. I just feel pandering to sympathies. The interest here is money. They make a lot of money. Their business is money. And I just think it should be noted that that's a major interest, probably the major interest. And the quality of a community as it exists is something to consider versus where everything's headed at an exponential rate. And I just want to point that out.
My name is Brandon Ames. I do not own any property in Salem or in the area. I do represent one of the developers interested in the annexation. We are a local developer and have been since the 1980s. The company was started by one person who used to teach music at the University of Utah and found out he could sell a house and make the same amount of money in 1 year, and was able to raise his family selling homes. I feel for a lot of people here because I grew up in a very rural area in North Dakota, and a lot has changed where I grew up. My family moved to Montana to get away from the change. But I also am torn because I have 6 boys and a daughter who I have no idea how they're going to afford to live here. They're all considering leaving because they don't know where they could afford a home and stay in Utah. And there are other interests. Of course, the companies build homes to make money, but I'm pretty sure every mechanic fixes a car for the same reason. I'm pretty sure my father, who farms to make money. He raises cattle to make money. We've all chosen different professions, and it's not fair to assume that we're all doing them for improper reasons. One of the things that's very difficult for me to do is develop. I moved here for the outdoors. I love the outdoors. I love open space. But I also know that if you do not build homes, you cannot afford to buy homes in the future. It is very simple supply and demand. When the surveyors first came through Utah in the 1800s, they broke this out in sections, 1 mile by 1 mile. So the 5-acre piece you bought or the 1-acre piece you bought was subdivided by somebody. And it allowed you to build a home. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Jill Bergen again.
I knew I'd get you up to the microphone eventually.
We own
three attempts.
We own 5 acres right across the street from where the land will or is potentially going to be annexed, and understanding that growth will happen and that eventually, homes need to be built. We've seen the plan that D.R. Horton has, the open space that they have, he said that they want to have conserved open space. It's only on the hillside that is not developable. So I know that there's not an overall plan for Utah County on conservation development or smart growth, ways to develop where you have maybe the density in more compact areas and then open spaces that could be preserved. So rather than have, a yard that's, just to mow, but there's no shared open space that benefits everyone. And I think that even though it would be developed, it would be nice to consider some other options in the way that it's headed that may be able to appease both sides. And I don't think that that's been considered or given adequate consideration.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else making a motion out there. There we go.
Good evening. I'm Douglas Belliston, and I represent BYU. We have owned that farming property since 1960 and added to it periodically other parcels. There are now 14 parcels that are part of that farm, comprising a little over 700 acres. Since the 1960s, we have conducted a variety of educational activities there, including research as well as teaching activities with students from the university. But about 10 years ago, the direction of our agricultural education changed dramatically to become a laboratory-based education experience as opposed to a practical farm-based education. Last year, the university determined that it was time to sell that property so that the resources that might come through that sale could be repurposed at the university to benefit the students and to address university priorities. Given the growth that's occurred in Utah County, and particularly in this South County area, we were fairly confident that a developer would be attracted to that purchase. However, we believe that D.R. Horton is designing a quality master planned community for this site that will provide benefit and needed housing options and provide good quality of life benefits for those homes that may be built upon that property. BYU does support D.R. Horton's efforts to obtain approval for the annexation and its related master development plan. Maybe just to clarify, BYU continues to own that property. However, the contract with D.R. Horton will necessitate this annexation to occur for them to have the entitlements to go forward and make it a profitable venture for them and to benefit the university's purposes as well. We would very much appreciate your consideration of the annexation and would support its approval. And thank you very much for your time and for the time for these many citizens to express their views. We value that those views of the neighborhood. We were considering of that as we went through that sale process seeking a quality buyer. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a minute. I've got a request to, I guess the term would be saunter for 5 minutes, a short break. And then I've got Nick, is it Nick Button? Is that who you gave me the name on? He's on Zoom, would like to have a few moments, then we'll come back to Salem after the public comment's over. So just a quick 5 minutes and we'll be right back into this. Thank you.
Good. I reached out to Sam, their mayor, Rich, twice. And I've left him my number and stuff with the staff. I haven't heard a word from him.
Down here.
Is he alive?
I was young. I drive down through that, and none of these people.
If you were on the boundary commission, my city was fighting for something you called, you'd be a priority call. That's just my take. You know, my staff would know that, oh, Mayor Hunsaker on the boundary commission's calling about
work for is putting a big water line through this big property, starting in this fall.
Go ahead.
60-inch diameter water line.
All right, so we're just going to queue up the recording.
It's gonna have water.
You ready? Okay.
It's expensive water.
All right, we're
CP
back.
water,
Sounds like a podcast. All right, so we're going to pick it back up. We got Nick Button on Zoom. Nick, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you. You hear me?
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah. So I was reminded of an article I had read, and just to shed some light on perhaps who we're dealing with and some unforeseen things that, you know, I would have certainly brought to light, knowing D.R. Horton. Anyways, they're the ones in the headline on this article, and in Texas they'd gone in and done a development, and they rented out the entire development and then sold it to a money manager, the entire thing. I'm not sure that that would happen here, but it's definitely in their history and noteworthy to consider. Probably not the intent of any of these developments, but once that control happens, should be looked at as a possibility. That's all I wanted to say.
All right, thank you, Nick. We asked Salem City to hold off until the end in order to allow everybody to say something, not have to rebuttal. Hold on 1 minute. We got one more public comment, and then we'll have Salem City come up. And again, we did that just because of timing. So.
My name is Byron Villaverde. I live on Woodland Hills Drive. I have 5 acres. I've been living there for, I don't know, 30 or 40 years. I don't know which. I'm kind of here because I got the letter, but I have a different concern that may be a future problem for these younger people that have talked today. I came because I just wanted to, I'm kind of interested right now in getting, I have 2 kids, and one is 40 and the other's 36. But my oldest son would like to live in Salem, where we live. We are bound by the one housing stipulation. So I think we're on an Ag 1 or Ag 5-1 or whatever that coding is. But we find ourselves, and I'm thinking about these younger people who want their children to have this great lifestyle that our kids had. Our problem is that my son cannot build a home on 5 acres for some reason. Maybe because it's not allowed, there's not enough room or what. I don't know what the thinking was back then when that was set up. I know my neighbors on 8800 South towards the west off of Woodland Hills Drive, they have I think they have an acre parcel along that whole street. And I'd like to, we approached the city, Salem City, to see if maybe annexation was an option, and we were told no, that was not. So basically we're left with, we cannot have another home built for my son to live there. Maybe until I pass on. Maybe then I can pass the land on to them. But as I think about it, because they have 2 kids, they're going to be faced with the same problem also. That they will be forced to sell what my wife and I have built over these past years or decades, just because of a ruling. And so some of these younger people, I feel like, may in 20 years or 30 years themselves find themselves in my position where there's 7 acres or 5 3/4 acres. They won't be able to pass on to their kids if that's what their plan was at this point here. And I was wondering, so in that way, I was told by Salem City to just bide the time and let the city come to me. Okay, I just talked to them 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe. And so in that way, I'm kind of liking the idea where this parcel is going to become annexed for selfish reasons. But I don't like the other reasons that were presented. Like, we do have a well, and my wife just reminded me that when we have friends that come over, they say the water stinks, and they don't want to drink that water. And so in that way, and like the septic tank, we have a septic tank also. And I understand that soon I should be expecting problems with it because we've lived there so long. Thank goodness we haven't yet. But I was wondering, like this, let's say sister, but this lady over here in the black, that is there other ways that maybe we can develop this kind of land? Like I said, we're trapped right now. And the only thing that I can see right now is to sell and then split the money between my 2 kids. I don't see any other option. So maybe because you guys, the county people, representative or whatever, is there other ways that maybe we could, we're just wanting to develop one house, get one, not develop, but just get one house built, not 900 or 1,000 is what I heard. I also heard that it was going to start this year, but, and maybe just for your consideration. I mean, I'm kind of stuck in between the people that do not like the annexation to go through, but then again, for me, I kind of need the annexation to go through, and hoping that the city comes to me so that we can do this. So anyway, we'll leave those ideas with you, but mostly, is there a way that maybe we and them one day could maybe pass on their land to their kids? Because if they're under just a one house per whatever amount of acres they have, they will have the same problems that I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have 30 seconds.
Come on up.
My name is Marilyn Cope, and I just wanted to tell you, excuse me, I appreciate having these meetings so that we can come together and discuss our issues. But you need to know that my property is right across the street from the BYU property, and I didn't get a letter either. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll look that one up. I will turn some time over to Salem City.
Commissioners, thanks again for letting me come and address you. I don't want to take a lot of time, but I do want to just point out some things I think that need a little bit of clarification. There have been a lot of good comments tonight, a lot of really valid concerns. People are concerned about their homes and their way of life, and I can totally understand that. And there was somebody that grew up in North Dakota, and I did too, and so I think that's the first that might have ever happened here in this room, that there's 2 North Dakota boys here, but that's the case.
Nobody left.
First of all, I want to point out that the Salem City has not approved the annexation. What they have, somebody mentioned that earlier, what they have done is they've accepted the annexation for further study. They studied it, and then they certified that the annexation complies with the statutory requirements. But assuming the decision tonight, or pending the outcome of this decision, there will still be a public hearing at Salem City and an ordinance for the council to consider whether or not to annex the property. So that has not been approved yet.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
As part of that annexation that hasn't been done yet, is part of that discussion density rights that'll be vested with the annexation?
Yes. The short answer is yes. The annexation ordinance sets a zone, and we apply the first zone designation to that property. The applicant has also submitted a development agreement and a master plan for consideration. The council will also consider that. But technically, I think those are two distinct items. The annexation ordinance and then approval of any sort of development would be separate. Let's see. And basically, to follow up on that, some of the comments tonight were directed at you're approving this development happening. That really is for the Salem City Council to consider. You're not approving any sort of development tonight. Rather, you're considering whether or not the annexation petition meets the requirements of the statutory law. Let's see. As far as the notice questions that have come up, I know that Salem City follows the statutory notices and will continue to do so, and I assume that Utah County did the same, both for the county commission meeting that happened previously and for tonight. Notice is not a constitutional requirement as long as it doesn't involve property of your own. You are entitled to due process for property that you own with notice and a hearing, but not for somebody else's. And one further point, that the Boundary Commission cannot, this is the Boundary Commission, not the County Commission. The Boundary Commission cannot rescind a resolution of the County Commission. That would be for them to consider. The Salem City General Plan shows that the area here under the annexation petition is designated for 2 to 3 dwelling units per acre, and it's all within their annexation boundary. So that is what is proposed, and that is what the City Council will consider. Let's see. Somebody made a comment that the outcome seems to have been decided, and I don't think so. I disagree. I'm arguing that the Boundary Commission and the city needs to follow the annexation law, and I hope that we have, and from what I can tell, the city has, the Boundary Commission has, the petitioners have as well. If the concern is that the outcome seems constrained, or what they can talk about or what they can address seems limited, I think that concern lies with the legislature. The legislature makes the law about annexation, and what the Boundary Commission can consider is within that scope that the legislature has drawn. Let's see. Somebody made a mention that the development is a leapfrog, but I'm here to tell you that it is both adjacent and contiguous to Salem City boundary. That is one of the requirements of the law. It's several hundred feet of contiguous boundary with Salem City. Let's see. I think that is all that I have to just clarify tonight. If you have any further questions for me, I'd be happy to address those.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Chair.
Oh.
Can I ask a question
This-
real quick? Just in regards to that peninsula, I know that I've read the updates in the state code dealing with the peninsulas. I'm just curious as to why the city didn't annex that piece of property right there.
Because the owner of that property did not join the petition. We didn't receive a petition for that property. And so as an owner of real property, the petition must contain the signatures of all the owners of real property. Let me say that right. Rural real property within the petition area. And so if they refuse to sign, they can't be forced in. They have to sign the petition to come in.
Okay.
So that's why the peninsula exists in the first place, because that property didn't join the petition.
Right, I understand that. So I just wanted to know if there'd been an effort to either secure that property or to annex it in.
I'm
Seems-
probably not the best person to ask. I know that the developer has had conversations with, or the petitioner has had conversations with all those property owners and sought to get a more contiguous, concentric, I should say, a better shaped annexation area. And they were able to get some to join and others just refused to join.
Thank you.
I'm going to do something a little different. Typically, we have a city and a city going back and forth, and then we have public comment. But Paul, you drafted the template that basically everybody used, or the majority used. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Because so many people used your template. I know you've already spoken, but if there is something else you'd like to say, and then I would extend, because typically it's city versus city, extend some time back to Salem City after you're done. So the choice is yours. And again, I'm doing this because it seemed like, yeah, it was, I think over 70% of the people that protested used your template. So go ahead.
Not sure how you knew it was me that wrote it, but that's okay. It was me that wrote it.
And go ahead and state your name again for the record.
Paul Bergen. Look, I appreciate this process, and like I said earlier, you know, we are feeling a bit like this process has not worked well, and I think we're due, we're due rights to due process. And I understand the limitation of this commission. I've had a couple of conversations with Rob Moore. Are you? Is that right?
Rob's over here.
Oh, over here. Oh, you're Rob. Okay. So he's been kind enough to spend some time with me, and I understand that this is a limited scope meeting.
Yeah. Before we started, I announced that we are a quasi-legal commission. And so based on that, we are constrained by what legislatively is allowed for us to determine.
Right.
So I think we're both talking about the same thing here.
Right. And so I guess what I would say is everybody has opinions. There's property rights. I respect property rights. I'm a property owner. I get it. This is a debate that will go on forever as far as there's growth, right? The rights of the property owners who bought the property and expected a rural environment, and those rights that are incumbent with that, and then the rights of the property owner to sell, which dramatically and completely changes the nature of the community, right? And that's the tension, and that's what we're seeing here today, and we'll see that forever probably in Utah until we're just one big suburbia. I understand that and respect that property owners have rights as well as to sell and also to enjoy quiet enjoyment. And quiet enjoyment of property is also a fundamental right. And that's what we've been talking about here tonight. I guess what I would say is that we're supposed to have a process that brings us here, and the process should involve public comment for key decisions like the May 12th meeting. And my main concern, there's lots of concerns in my letter, which you've read. Water rights are massive, and people just say, well, the developers have to get the water, but if there is no more water because of hypergrowth, then it doesn't matter about the piece of paper that the developer is saying, I bought 5 shares. And people are fundamentally concerned about, is there enough water when there's, 4,100 homes going into Salem. And I don't think anyone's ever done any water studies about how much water would be available despite the shares purchased. I don't care about the shares purchased. I'm talking about the water in the aquifer. And has Utah County done any studies about water in the aquifer, not water rights? And you know, there's lots of those issues. It's not within the scope of what you guys have in front of you. So, you know, I want to state that there are lots of issues here. You've heard them. But as far as what we have here in front of us, you've got to decide whether within the scope of the Boundary Commission, does it fit or does it not fit? I understand that. I agree, and it's a pretty narrow scope. My main concern is that we have not had due process before today's meeting. Fundamentally, we have not had due process. And so if we would have had the opportunity to speak at the May 12th meeting, because any notice would have been given other than a state website, then I think this meeting wouldn't be in existence. We wouldn't have this meeting tonight, because I think May 12th would have gone very differently. And so in effect, we've been robbed of our opportunity to due process. And we've got 3,400 signatures. I'm not just one or two, it's not just one or two people here, but we have 3,400 signatures that are fundamentally opposed to this annexation. And we weren't allowed due process. And so, you may not be able to revoke or rescind the May 12th letter, but can you, because you care about due process, because you care deeply about local government, or you wouldn't be sitting up there, right? I know I'm talking to a sympathetic audience because you're dedicating your lives to public service. So I'm saying if public service hasn't served us, and we have not been the beneficiaries of due process that the state guarantees us, then can you, put a pause on this process and go talk to the Utah County people and say, look, there has been a bit of a problem with due process. There's been a problem with due process with the city. There's been a problem with due process with the May 12th meeting. And there's been a problem with due process that was fixed but didn't benefit us after July 1st. And so, frankly, we've been screwed. And as people who fundamentally deeply care about local government working correctly and local government doing what it's supposed to do, we're just asking you if you can put a pause on this, talk to Utah County, ask if we can get Robert involved in some conversations that are not behind closed door, and can we see if we can right the wrong so that we have the right to due process that we're entitled. Because you've got 3,400 people here, basically the population of Salem, who want to have a say. And we weren't given that opportunity. And so, yeah, technically there was due process, but the spirit of what Utah County is affording us as Utah County citizens was not served. And so you have the ability to say, we need to pause this, and we need to make sure as public servants that the public is served. And that's all I'm asking, because your scope is very limited. And as much as you may care about water rights, and as much as you care about, quality of life and everything else that everyone here has talked about, that's not within the scope, unfortunately. And so we'll have to have conversations, and hopefully this meeting has put Salem City and D.R. Horton and BYU on notice that, it's not going to be, we're not going to be pushovers. But that's a conversation for another day. Right now, we just want due process. And so I'm asking you, if you can't rescind the May 12th letter, if you can just hit the pause button and have some conversations with or without me. I'd like to be involved with Utah County and see if we can have access to due process that hopefully you are very, very, very passionate about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Salem City, extending, Salem City is going to pass. So I'm going to bring it back up to the board. Yeah, we'll have comments from the board.
Just to clarify a few things as I understand them, and I stand to be corrected if I don't understand it right, but I've been involved with the Boundary Commission for probably close to 20 years now, on and off. Every meeting that we have had, which have not been very many, has involved, as has been mentioned before, one city or another city saying, look, you're trying to take our property or property that we should have someday, or vice versa, trying to overlap into our, I call it poaching. That's generally what we're called on to say, okay, you can only go to this line if you're going to annex, or you can only go to this line if you're going to annex. And I will say right now, I don't understand that we have any authority beyond that. I love your comments. I probably agree with almost all of them. I can, I think we all understand where you're coming from. I will say right now, Mr. Bergen, this is the first time I've seen any of these people or been here. There have been no closed door meetings. It doesn't happen. We're here, we're volunteers, we're citizens of Utah County, and that's the end of that discussion. I don't appreciate being accused of having a closed door meeting or making a decision. My decision tonight will be, if Salem City annexes, are they taking some of the land that Spanish Fork was going to take someday? I say ask for to be annexed into Spanish Fork City or to be annexed into Salem. And that's pretty much the end of what I understand our authority is. I don't know that we have any authority over the county commission, over Salem City, city council, mayor, anybody like that. Just got a couple of other things I wanted to mention here. I appreciate the open discussion and the fact that we could hear this. This is the first time we've ever had one of these meetings where anybody showed up besides two city attorneys trying to talk back and forth and work through things. Anyway, water issues, sewer issues, density issues, traffic issues, those are all major issues. I totally agree with you. But they're going to have to go through Salem City to be decided and discussed, and that's, in my mind, that's what I understand. Now, I totally am open to any correction if there's some to be had here. But tonight, when the day's over, if we notified everybody in Salem and everybody in Spanish Fork, and they all showed up here, at the end of the day, our decision would be, is Salem City taking land that would someday be used or annexed into Spanish Fork City? And that's my understanding. I'll let anybody educate me or give me some input, but that's where I'm at right now. Thank you.
Was there additional comments?
First. Being the mayor of Santaquin, D.R. Horton has done a lot of building in Santaquin, and they've done a wonderful job. Our city staff works well with them. They have done a great job there. So anything bad about DR, you haven't worked with them or been any there. But go along with what Commissioner Fairbanks said, the traffic, water, sewer, density issues is all up to Salem City and the council. It's not anything that we have to rule on tonight. The only concern I have is the county commissioners approving the peninsula. That's their decision. We haven't got any control over that. And they've approved it, and I think our hands are tied by that. Other than that, I appreciate all of you here. It's good to have public comment, to hear and I grew up in Wyoming, and so I know what rural life is like. So thank you for being here tonight.
Just a couple things. My name's Paul Raymond, Commissioner Raymond. I've lived in these developments before, and I've seen what D.R. Horton's done, and I would always say they've done an excellent job on their developments. And so I know there's a housing shortage in the county and in the state right now, and some would look at this and say it's a really good thing. This meeting that they had keep mentioning on the 12th of May was to get the county commissioners to basically, according to state code, they can waive a peninsula. And so this came, way I understand it, looking at the code, there's been several changes to it in the last year. This one came about in March. And by them meeting and approving the peninsula, that I don't know that that was a meeting for public annexation as much as it was an administrative measure for the city of Salem to get that done. And so I'm not sure what notice they would do on that. We come into play when there's, when there's public hearing and comments, for things like this. And us, more than probably anyone else, would like it when these things are resolved at the lowest level. Like with the city of Salem, it sounds like that option is not closed off to all of you yet. There's still some options there. So I would hope that you would take advantage of everything you can and go to Salem City and try and let your concerns be known. If you have 3,400 protests or signed petitions for this, I mean, that seems like quite a considerable number, and I would think that Salem City would be willing to listen to that. But really, our job is to see if it meets the prerequisites in the state code, and it does. Everything that they've done so far meets those prerequisites. Like I say, there's been changes in the code over the past year. There was one amended in March and one amended in July that have a direct bearing on this just due to the peninsula. So, but I really am with you guys. I feel for you. I like when you move somewhere and you want to keep your rural setting, and this happens. It's I would rather live in that setting than in a planned development. And so my heart really goes out to everybody. And that's all I have to say.
Just a question. You talked about Spanish Fort.
You probably state your name so it's on the record.
Oh, sorry. Mayor Miller, City of Saratoga Springs. Spanish Fort, they didn't send in any opposition to this for boundary. I didn't see anything in the packets. You talked about boundary agreements overstepping each other as part of the decision.
Yeah, this is in Salem City's general plan.
It is in theirs. It doesn't overlap.
Typically, as you know, the general plans are intended and devised so that the conflict is actually identified early in the process. And so that is why by state statute, everyone is required to have that general plan.
Okay. I was just curious because of the comment. I thought maybe I'd missed something as I went through the packet earlier today. On that, this is kind of like deja vu as far as the primary landowner being the Church of Jesus Christ and D.R. Horton as an applicant. We've dealt with this with 3,000 acres in our city with an annexation and a project. This commission, as was stated, is here to make sure it meets the code. I would encourage the residents to talk with the city council, especially where no decision has been made on their part yet. I know with working with the vested rights that were granted to the Church of Jesus Christ in our city that went to D.R. Horton, they actually lowered their density to listen to the residents. We came to a compromise in the middle. So I know at least with, I believe it was Scott's counterpart in the north, they are open to having a discussion to preserve a way of life for that. But really tonight's decision, as tough as that is it boils down to, does it meet state code? There's not a lot to go with the county commission. As a city, we've talked to the commission about items like this and also the general land use plan as it abuts next to cities within the county and future planning and growth. And there's a lot of work to be done in the county. There's a lot of work. It's not just here, it's all across the county to get those items fixed and corrected. Some of the code is years and years old. Some of it's older than I am. And so that does need to be fixed. And so I appreciate the comments tonight. I appreciate the letters that were put into it and the thought that was put into the comments this evening. I'll yield the mic.
Is there anyone else who wants to? I do want to clarify one thing. Was it Kelly? You're right. Yeah, Kelly. Kelly mentioned, and you cited in your statement, I read it this afternoon, that Utah County Code. That is code while you're residing in the county, but the city of Salem has their own code. And so once the annexation takes place, it's Salem City's code, and Utah County's code means nothing. So I just wanted to clarify that.
What do you mean by that? Because it's not in the city yet, so it still should be under Utah County.
Right. And they're going through the process of annexing. So you're exactly right. And as long as it remains in the county, that code applies to it. But once it's annexed into the city, then that code that Utah County has no longer applies. I just wanted to clarify that for you. So until it's annexed, you're absolutely right. But once it is annexed, then Salem City's code trumps the, because it's no longer in the county.
Well, I think that's why we're kind of here, because that's the whole point of this, right? Is
Right.
It's in the county.
Well,
So
it's,
I guess
it's not annexed yet, and it's in the county.
Just saying that to me as like, not a warning in a threat way, but just
No,
like
no.
a warning as in like, in the future when it's annexed, that I should keep up on Salem City Code? Or
No,
why
it's not even a warning. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
But I also understand that it's not annexed right now, so the Utah County Code is what applies tonight.
That's exactly right. Until it's annexed, Utah County Code does apply. But once it is annexed, then that no longer applies. There are, the county sometimes has what's called transition areas, where they actually have special zoning in the county because they know that area is going to be transitioned in. But it's all county code until it's annexed. So right now, you're absolutely right. It does apply right now. So I wasn't sure if everybody was clear on that. So yeah, okay. I wasn't picking on you. I heard it more than once, but you were the first one to mention it.
Yeah, exactly why you were saying that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to turn it back over to our attorney for what our options are at this point. Because I know in the past we've deliberated. We are a quasi judicial, which is different. It was mentioned that the county commission, when they made the decision to, I didn't even know they could do this. I'm with a lot of people here. I was surprised that you could vote not to have allowing a peninsula. This is the first time I've heard that that was even allowed. Turn it over to our attorney to advise us on deliberation or.
Sure, just a couple of points. That statute actually was changed a little bit before this year. That statute was changed about 4 or 5 years ago. The county commission has done that a few times where they have, during an open and public meeting, noticed it up and had a vote on whether to allow for a peninsula or an island to either be created or to remain.
Well, it came up as an issue in 2020, but as research came out, it wasn't a peninsula, and so it was actually not classified as a peninsula. So,
but as far as tonight, I think one of the first things you want to do is you want to close the public hearing. Realize this is a public hearing, so we want to close that. Then the next thing you can do is you have options. One option is you could decide to take a vote and see where you're at. And then as part of that vote, if you're going to do that, I would suggest that whatever that decision is, that you direct me to prepare a written decision supporting your vote and to circulate that for signature. Another option you could do is you could take a recess and deliberate. We could find a room for you here in the building. You can do that outside the public if you wanted to. And then come back and make a decision. You could take it under advisement, and you can make a decision at some later point if you wanted to. As long as written decision has to be sent out within 30 days of the conclusion of the public hearing. Or alternatively, you could continue the hearing if you have more information you still wanted to obtain. And again, you can only have up to 60 days to continue the hearing. So you can make a decision now. You can go deliberate on a decision. You can continue it, or you can take under advisement and just issue a written decision without making one here in this room.
All right, thank you.
Those are your options.
So at this point, I'm going to close the public hearing unless, well, I'm going to extend one more opportunity for anybody who wants to say anything. If not, I'll close the
Let's do that
public
by
hearing.
motion, if you could, please.
I'll make a motion. I need to have someone make a motion. I'm the chair. So I need to have somebody make a motion to close the public hearing.
I move that we close the public hearing.
And
I
we have
second
a
that.
second. So did you get that, Alice?
Mayor Hunsaker?
You have a second on
Yeah, we have a second. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
that? Aye.
Is there any nays? And so it is now closed. I'm going to bring it back to the commission as to a discussion on how you want to proceed. You heard our options here. We can do whatever the body
I
wants.
think we need to make a decision right now.
I propose that
Yeah.
we go into a deliberation, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Okay?
All right, I got two opposing views here.
I'm willing to go there.
Yeah. So we can make a motion to either go into deliberation or not go into deliberation and continue here.
You need a second on that? Is that what you're looking for?
Well, I don't think I officially have a motion yet, do I?
No.
I don't think I do.
Mr. Chair, I think you could just open it up for motions, and if someone wants to make a motion to make a determination, or if they will make a motion to go in deliberation, whatever, you can open it up and kind of see where you go, if you like. I can't make the decision for you, so I'm just.
Right.
I move that we make a determination now.
All right, we have a motion to make a determination now. Is there a second?
I will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays? All right, we'll continue on to make a motion now. So based on that, it is, we'll open up for a motion and which discussion can happen afterwards, after the motion's made.
If there was a motion, what would it be?
To remind you, you can approve it, the annexation.
Approve
proposed
what?
annexation with or without conditions. You can
Okay.
make modifications and then approve it with or without conditions, or you could deny the annexation.
So we have three options.
And then again, reminder that when you do that, if you would also instruct the attorney to prepare a written decision supporting that, including findings and conclusions and decision.
So it was approve?
Approve, make modifications and approve, or deny. And it's not the protest you're approving and denying, it's the annexation by statute that you're approving and denying.
Okay. I move that we approve the annexation.
Would that also include that you direct the attorney to?
Yes, and direct the letter be written and
decision?
sent out. Yes.
But clarification for,
Well, we have to have a second first before we go into discussion. So we have a motion on the table.
For sake of discussion, I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We are now open for discussion. Go ahead. You might want to into the mic so people can hear you.
So I just want to clarify then that everybody here that's got a objection to the meeting withheld, we have no jurisdiction over that. That they didn't get enough public notice.
Right.
That's correct?
That's correct.
All we can really do is just what was being said, is just say that everything's being followed according to statutes with Salem City and the Utah County.
jurisdiction? There's a motion on the table right now.
Well, I
No,
guess
I'm just saying as far as interact.
Yeah,
we can't
There's
act,
a- yeah,
we
there's a-
can't interact, but we can talk amongst
Correct.
ourselves on that. So the,
Attorney, so you'd want to direct that. to.
okay, so where does that go from there, Attorney?
Your question is about the May 12th, 2021?
Right, where the
Notification.
opposition is that no one got notified, or they felt like they didn't get notification. We have no jurisdiction to take and rescind or go back and talk about why they didn't get that. What clarification, or where can they go from here if we approve this annexation, or I guess it's not the annexation, but to approve this?
You are essentially allowing the annexation to go forward. Now, ultimately, Salem City has to finalize the process, but the step of the protesting part of it, if you approve it today, that part will be over. So the protests, there's 20 of them, as you know, those would be resolved, if you will. If you make a decision and it's supported in writing and sent out, that will resolve that part. But your question relates to that May 12, 2021 decision of the county commission. I think that decision, the notice that was required is the notice that was provided. It did not require personal notice, which is, this hearing was more involved with personal notice, mailed within 300 feet. That did not require that. So I think that's the difference. Whether there's a process that maybe the county commission wants to change, that the citizens could approach the county commission on that process if they want to have future decisions like that made with personal notice. But that's not what's required by law. And so that would be additional notice over and above what's required.
Let me ask a clarifying question. There's three options that the board can choose, and we have a motion for option one right now.
Yes.
Is there any leeway on motion number two, if it were to be amended to be motion number two, to include anything that has to do with that May 12th?
No, the number two, the modification typically would be modification to what's included, what properties are included with the annexation, what properties are not included within the annexation.
So that cannot be a condition?
No. I don't think so. I don't see how, this board could not undo something the county commission did.
And they would have had to have done that in an open public meeting, because all three of them
Correct.
would have had to have been present to make that decision.
Correct.
Or at least two of them, I
Yes.
guess.
And that was done on May 12th,
Okay.
2021.
We're still, we're still discussing the motion, if there's anything else anyone wants to say. Or we can call the question. Seeing, well, maybe,
No further discussion, do a roll call vote, and we'll be done.
all right. We will, do we need to do a roll call vote, or is it just?
Sure, let's do that.
Okay. All right, we will do a roll call vote on, totally lost my track of thought here. On the motion. And the motion is to accept the annexation
Still
with
approve. Yeah.
to approve the annexation
And directing me to
And-
make a decision, or not a decision.
and have the
write a decision.
attorney, write the decision associated with that motion. So we'll start with a roll call vote. So I'll just have each one of you, we'll start with the mayor and state your name and your vote.
Kirk Hunsaker, aye.
Paul Raymond, aye.
Jim Miller, aye.
Alan Shepard, aye.
Bill Fairbanks, aye.
Andrea Allen, aye.
And Chris Polson, aye. So that passes unanimously based on the conditions.
Thank you. And when I will prepare that written decision with findings and conclusions, and that decision is mentioned, I will circulate that hopefully within the next week or so to all of your emails. Please make comment if you have any, and then ultimately we'll have a written signature signed, and then by state law, we had to provide that written decision to certain parties, and we'll provide that.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion to,
I move that we adjourn.
we have a motion to
Second.
adjourn in a second. I believe it was Mayor Hunsaker that, all in favor say aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and we are adjourned. Thank you.
That was good.